Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Casey. Today, we're continuing Brand Spotlight, my mini-series where we feature different fashion brands and talk about their origin story, their mission, what they became known for, and the real reasons they either stayed successful, changed direction, or slowly disappeared from the market. For this episode, we're covering a brand that feels familiar in almost every country. Even if you've never bought anything from them, you've definitely seen the name, the waistband, the ads, the fragrance, the denim, or that clean minimal logo. Calvin Klein. Calvin Klein is one of those brands that built an entire identity out of restraint. It didn't need loud patterns to be recognizable. It didn't need complicated styling to feel modern. It created a clean, confident look, then pushed that look into culture through products people actually wear in everyday life. The story starts in New York in 1968. Calvin Klein launched the brand in the city that shaped so much of American fashion. And from the beginning, the aesthetic it became known for was already there. Minimal, sensual, and direct. What's interesting is that Calvin Klein didn't grow by being everything to everyone right away. It grew by being extremely clear about what it was. The brand's own story describes a history of bold, nonconformist ideals, and it frames its design language as a kind of canvas for self-expression. That canvas idea matters because it explains why Calvin Klein works globally. A clean base travels. You can place it in different cities, different decades, different subcultures, and it still reads as modern. So what is the mission, really? Calvin Klein positions itself as a global lifestyle brand, but the heart of it is this consistent message: confidence, individuality, and design that feels timeless rather than overloaded. You see that in how the brand describes itself, and you also see it in how it talks about values like empowerment and inclusion in its broader commitments today. Now, what did Calvin Klein become known for? If you ask most people, there are two categories that instantly come up: underwear and denim. Calvin Klein didn't just sell underwear, it made underwear visible in fashion culture. It turned a basic necessity into an identity piece, and it did it through design simplicity and marketing that became hard to ignore. That's part of why the brand became so recognizable, even for people who never followed fashion closely. And then there's denim. Calvin Klein became a major name in jeans, and it positioned denim in a way that felt sleek, modern, and slightly provocative, rather than rugged or purely utilitarian. This is where we get into what really made Calvin Klein succeed. Because the success was never only about product, it was about image. Calvin Klein is one of the clearest examples of a brand using advertising as a force that shapes culture. Some of the most famous Calvin Klein moments are campaigns that became conversation starters, and those campaigns helped lock in the brand's identity as minimal, sensual, and bold. A standout example is the early 1990s underwear era, including the Mark Wahlberg and Kate Moss campaign period that is still referenced in fashion media as a defining moment for the brand's advertising legacy. So when you ask, how did Calvin Klein become global? The answer is not just distribution. It's the combination of, first, a clear aesthetic. The brand itself describes its approach as minimalist and sensual, and it kept that direction consistent enough that people could recognize it instantly. Second, category anchors that people actually buy repeatedly. Underwear and denim are not occasional purchases, they are staples. When a brand becomes a default for staples, it becomes part of people's routines. Third, marketing that created memory. A lot of brands advertise. Fewer brands create iconic ads that people remember years later. Calvin Klein built a reputation for modern marketing and bold campaigns. And that helped the brand stay culturally present even when the product itself was intentionally simple. Fourth, scale through ownership and structure. Calvin Klein is now under PVH, and PVH acquired Calvin Klein in 2003. That matters because it helps cement the brand as a global lifestyle business with long-term growth strategy, licensing structure, and worldwide reach. PVH has also made moves to unify and strengthen the brand's global control, like the Warnaco acquisition that was framed as reuniting key licensed parts of the Calvin Klein business under one roof. Now, for the other question, is the brand still around in the same way, and why? Calvin Klein is definitely still around, but the way it's positioned has shifted across eras. For a while, Calvin Klein also had a high-end runway presence under Calvin Klein Collection, and the brand's fashion identity has moved through different phases over time. What's especially interesting right now is that there has been a clear push to elevate and refresh the brand's fashion authority again. Vogue reported on Calvin Klein working its way back toward the runway, including plans tied to a return to New York Fashion Week and a strategy to restore a halo around the brand while still serving its massive global customer base. That tells you what Calvin Klein's current challenge is, and it's a challenge a lot of big heritage brands face. How do you keep the brand widely accessible while also keeping it aspirational? How do you protect the identity while still evolving enough that it feels current? Because Calvin Klein's power is also its risk. When a brand becomes this universal, it can start to feel overfamiliar. When the logo is everywhere, people question what it still means. And when your core categories are staples like underwear and denim, you have to keep proving value, comfort, and relevance, not just once, but repeatedly. Still, Calvin Klein has something many brands spend decades trying to build. It has an instantly recognizable identity. It has products that live in people's daily routines, and it has a cultural footprint shaped by decades of imagery that made minimal feel bold. And that's why Calvin Klein fits perfectly into this series. It's proof that a fashion brand can become global by committing to a clear point of view, then repeating it consistently across products and culture. Calvin Klein didn't need to change its entire personality every season. It built a look, built a feeling, and made that feeling accessible enough that it could live in the everyday. In the next brand spotlight, we're shifting the lens to a brand that plays a different game. One where status, scarcity, or design direction matters more than familiarity. We'll break down how that kind of brand builds demand and what it takes to stay relevant when the product isn't meant to be universal. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.